Hello, and welcome to the Love Your Work Life podcast. I'm your host, Elissa Shuck. Whether you're going for that next promotion, looking for a job, or making a career pivot, I'll teach you how to navigate it all so you can have the career you want. Welcome to episode 63. I am calling this one Manage the Baggage. And I'll tell you why. But first, I'm going to start with a story. At one point during my career, I was a territory manager for a shoe company. Now, I don't know if you realize what shoe salespeople go through to travel from account to account, but you have to have samples with you, and you carry those samples with you in cases that are generally on wheels and approximately, I want to say like 4 feet high and maybe 12 inches wide. And they've got a little hand, kind of a loop handle thing on them, and you drag them along with you. Well, I had 2 of these cases, and of course my own suitcase and a computer bag, and I'm carrying all this around. Now, I had a really, really good system. This was a lot of heavy baggage, but I had such a good system. I would grab both shoe case handles in one hand. I would have my wheelie suitcase in the other hand. And of course, the laptop either over my shoulder, or sometimes I would prop that up onto the top of the suitcase and kind of drag those two together. Now, you don't get, you can move quickly that way, but sometimes it's hard to maneuver through doorways or over those little ledges between doorways or passageways. So every once in a while, I would, instead of drag my wheelie behind me, I would push it in front of me, and that would help me kind of streamline myself. So I had pushing something directly in front of me, pulling 2 shoe cases behind me, and man, I was moving. As crazy as that was, it was absolutely necessary. It was necessary for me to figure out a system for handling all that baggage in order to get my job done. When I started traveling internationally in a different area of the business, and I didn't have to have a bunch of samples with me, despite the fact that I knew how to handle a bunch of baggage, I was traveling as light as possible. Now, everything was going to fit in the overhead compartment or under the seat in front of me so that I didn't have to wait at baggage claim, and I could just move through life quickly and effortlessly. I'm saying all this to say that baggage kind of comes with the territory, my friends. We are going to have to deal with it. Our life is not going to be baggage free physically or metaphorically, but we need to figure out how to manage it. And in your job search, if you don't manage it, it is going to hurt you in a number of ways. When you think about baggage, at least one of the first things I think of is heaviness, right? There's a weight to it. It can slow you down at best, and worst case, if you can't handle it, then it's going to keep you stuck. Maybe you're even going to go backwards. Like if the weight of the baggage is stronger than you, then it might even drag you down. You might even start going backwards. So I started thinking, what are the various baggages? Is that a word? What's the various stuff that tends to drag us down, especially when you are in a job search? Well, my friends, I'm telling you, thoughts can be very heavy. I've been reading things and hearing things like, It's the worst time to job search in history. I am facing a demoralizing abyss. Heavy thoughts. Now, you all know that I'm big on managing your thoughts. And the reason I'm saying that is because those thoughts, let's just remove the idea that there's negative thoughts and positive thoughts. And just think of it like there are thoughts that serve you and what you want to get, whether that's a kind of job, a higher purpose in life, whatever. And then there's thoughts that don't serve you. Now, you can think that your job search is demoralizing, horrible, and that you're facing an abyss. And if that kicks you into action, if that motivates you to move forward, then I'm all for that thought. But I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know of very many people who are motivated by a thought that they're staring into an abyss. So I want you to pay very close attention to your thoughts. These heavy thoughts, these sentences, we know they're attention getters. I just saw one today, a tidal wave of layoffs. And I looked at the article and it was 13 layoffs here and, X number there. It really wasn't the tidal wave that the article was describing. But we get why those really heavy sentences are attention getters. And if it's going to get your attention and motivate you, awesome. But if it's getting your attention and it is dragging you down, if it's baggage that is slowing you down, stopping you in your tracks, or getting you to be rolling backwards, then it is not a thought that serves you. It's baggage. Okay? What are some other examples of baggage? We've got the heavy thoughts, and we know thoughts create feelings, and sometimes it's hard to identify the thoughts, but we can certainly identify the feelings like betrayal and disappointment, anger, all the things you might be feeling if you get laid off, or maybe feelings of frustration or not feeling validated, being in a role that doesn't fit you, or in an organization or working for a boss that doesn't appreciate you and everything that you can do and your contributions. Hey, I've been there myself. That can be that baggage as well. So I want you to pay very close attention to these heavy thoughts and these heavy feelings, because here's how that can hurt you in your job search. Number one, if it's weighing you down, it will affect your productivity and your results. You won't be moving fast enough. You won't have the motivation you need, which means you won't be getting the traction that you want to have in your job search. Maybe you're only applying to a few jobs a week instead of a few jobs a day. Maybe you just don't feel like you're peppy enough or something to reach out to that recruiter or take some action. And all that means, because there's a numbers aspect to your job search, is you're just slowing yourself down. You are. And listen, I know that it takes some effort to manage your mind, to be aware of your feelings and ultimately the thoughts that are creating those feelings. But it is so worth the effort, because once you start releasing that baggage, then you can move so much faster. Another example from my personal life is I knew I was working in retail and I could see the handwriting on the wall. Business was awful. I had, been coached about how to improve business. Nothing was happening. There were a whole lot of reasons why it wasn't happening. But suffice to say, I was pretty sure that I was going to get demoted. And because I'm a high achiever, because I'm so committed, man, this was like major dissonance to work hard, to keep working harder and keep trying new things. And at the same time, somewhere in my mind thinking that it was hopeless and there was probably nothing I could do to change the outcome. So I decided to go see a therapist. Seriously, anyone who's in this position, I want you to get help. Your mental health is important. So when you feel like I felt, like I just couldn't cope anymore, I felt anxiety ridden, I decided to go see a therapist. And the goal initially was to talk about how I was going to cope with the workload and making it happen and continue to stay as dedicated to the job as I wanted to be, despite this looming feeling and fear I had. Well, between week 1 and week 2, I got demoted. And so the therapy changed. The therapy then became, how do I manage the disappointment, the guilt, the feelings of failure that I was encountering? And I'll never forget what my therapist said. He said, you can put a Band-Aid on it for the 8 hours that you're working. You can take the Band-Aid off on the way in, and you can take it off on your way home. But you can manage it. And just knowing, just having someone tell me, you can manage this, was so empowering. And I want you to feel empowered in that way as well. You have what it takes to manage the feelings, the thoughts, everything you're going through. And you need to do it because the other way, not managing your baggage can hurt you, is that it walks right in there with you to an interview, to those conversations. Imagine carrying all this stuff in there with you, the weight of it. Now, it's all going on in your mind, but it's going to be distracting, just like walking in, with a big giant suitcase and a couple of shoe cases into an interview would be kind of distracting for the person on the other side of that desk, the person on the other side of that conversation. Be like, what's that? Such a distraction. Wonder what's going on there. Why did they bring that in with them? Are they going to bring that in with them every day? All those feelings you're having have weight and energy that can be felt by the other person. That's why going in to an interview, sending that connection request, writing that thank you or that follow-up, I want you to check your baggage at the desk and leave it there and go in clean and clear in your mind so that you are not creating any distraction by projecting all of those heavy feelings onto the other person. I mean, think about it. We know when we talk to someone, when they are being clingy and graspy and convincing, right? We can all feel it. I know you can think of some of those circumstances where you have felt that convincing energy and the weight of it. That is what you absolutely do not want to take in with you to an interview. It's why the prep is so important. Cleaning out all the doubts, clearing out all the heavy thoughts that you have. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to be able to be all rainbows and butterflies and unicorns. Listen, it wasn't that way for me when I put that Band-Aid on and I went out and did a job that I hadn't done in a long time because I got demoted. But what I did know is that I could be in a neutral state. And in neutral gave me the possibility to be the person that my customers on that sales floor needed me to be, to give the great customer service that was representative of me personally and the organization that I worked for. So getting to neutral is going to be a really positive space for you, including going into interviews. How you get there is you ask what if questions that open up space instead of close space. So if you're thinking, what if all this goes terribly wrong? That's closing. What if this goes terribly right? What if I have another idea? If I had another idea, what would that be? Those are the kind of questions that will get you to neutral. What if it isn't the worst time in job search history? What if this is the perfect time for me? Man, those are powerful thoughts. Can you feel how those are so much less weighty and just kind of almost bubbling with potential? That's the space I want you to live in. Now, I found some really great quotes that so aptly bring this point home, that your thoughts are something that you can manage and that you must manage so that you can get the results that you want. The first one, Stephen Richardson: reality is a projection of your thoughts or the things you habitually think about. Going into your job search, I want the most prevalent thought, the most dominant thought in your head to be one that projects a reality that is good, that there is the perfect job out there for me, that the right people are going to see my value. I want you to be thinking those thoughts. Here's another one, Wayne Dyer: what we think determines what happens to us. So if we want to change our lives, we need to stretch our minds. Isn't it so cool how that fits into that expansive nature of things? Listen, if you want to change your job search, you need to stretch your mind. You need to be willing to push the boundaries of the thoughts that happen to you on autopilot and start to get intentional about them. Start to pay attention to them and be intentional about the thoughts you choose. And of course, I love this quote from Viktor Frankl: everything can be taken from us but one thing: to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. You have so much more control in your job search and in your career than you're giving yourself credit for. You can choose to release the heavy thoughts, to release the heavy feelings, to be intentional about the thoughts that serve you. You can say, does this thought serve me or not? And recognize it for what it is, but take it a step further and just pick one that serves you. Make that the thought that you repeat in your mind. Put it on a sticky note, stick it on the fridge, on your computer, wherever you will see it on a regular basis. Because thoughts are just sentences in your mind, and reading those sentences and even saying them out loud will be something that helps you manage the baggage. All right, until next time. If you like listening to this podcast, and you are going to love my program, Job Search Field Guide. This is a unique opportunity. I offer group coaching alongside a 5-step process to help you land a job quickly. So I hope you will join me in Job Search Field Guide. This is going to be revolutionary to your career journey and your job search, and you get lifetime access. So find it at elissashuck-careercoach.com, and I will see you there.